Almost 50 years here in the area serving music enthusiasts. Who is he? You'll meet him and learn about South by Southeast. Coming up next on Carolina People. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning we're at the Myrtle Beach Herald. We're focused on South by Southeast, a local music education group, and we're visiting with its director, Jeff Roberts. Good morning, Jeff.
Good morning. How are you?
Thanks so much for coming in.
Thanks for having me on.
It's exciting to get you in, and to think we're now less than 6 weeks away from the Great Americana Sampler coming up at Coastal Federal Field.
Just around the corner.
It's amazing, and you know, 6 weeks seems so far off, but it is so close when you're putting everything together.
Absolutely, and you have to give everybody a chance to plan to be able to attend the event.
Right, right. Of course, it's on a Saturday.
Yes, sir.
So that works well. Share with the viewers a little about what y'all are planning.
We are having a show called the Americana Sampler Show, and what that's going to involve is we're bringing in 3 singer-songwriters from Nashville and parts unknown, but the headliner will be a guy named Jim Lauderdale. He's a Carolinas guy, actually, who was raised in Due West, South Carolina. He's a very well-known songwriter. He's had recordings done by George Strait and Patty Loveless, and has done music in just about every kind of genre, from bluegrass to rock and roll, country, and his latest collaboration is one with a guy named Robert Hunter who wrote songs for the Grateful Dead. So wow. He's done lots of different kinds of things and even extends into acting a little bit. He did a show a couple of years ago that was called Stand By Your Man, which was a stage presentation and a filmed version of the story of George Jones' life, and he played George Jones.
Is that right?
And so he's very well known in songwriting circles, but not so well known to the general public. But he's a great songwriter and a great entertainer.
Jim Lauderdale.
Jim Lauderdale.
So he's kind of the key push. Of course, all 4 of the big acts are all big.
They're all national guys, and once again, they're people that are known more for their songwriting craft than they're known for their general penetration into the music market. And some of them have had songs on the radio as well. The second guy in the lineup is a guy named Paul Thorne, and Paul's from Tupelo, Mississippi, and he begrudgingly says that he's not the only guy from Tupelo, Mississippi. This guy named Elvis is also from there. But he's the son of a Pentecostal holiness preacher,
oh, wow.
And so he said he learned to talk from his dad, and he's also a former middleweight boxer, and he went 8 rounds with a guy named Roberto Duran.
No way.
And got knocked out and wrote a song called I'd Rather Be a Hammer Than a Nail.
Oh my.
So he's an interesting fellow too. And then the last part of the show, as far as the headliners go, is a pair named Kevin Welch and Kieran Kane, and they're both songwriters that have been around the national scene for the last 15 or 20 years and have had chart hits with lots of people and just have never had much success on their own outside the songwriting community.
That is fabulous. Well, obviously we'll highlight them a little more as the interview wraps up, but of course the big focus, you know, oftentimes we roll right into the person. You've got a great affinity with music and have for a heck of a long time,
Sure.
Jeff. But about yourself, are you originally from the area?
Actually, I was born in Asheboro, North Carolina. My family moved here in '55, and I grew up in Myrtle Beach and have been here my whole life for the most part, except for a little stint in college, Carolina. And I finished at Coastal Carolina out here, and all my friends and pals I grew up with, for the most part, are still around here, and I've seen the beach grow up over the years.
Now, when you say Carolina, you're talking about South Carolina.
Right.
You know,
right.
a lot of our viewers, about a quarter of our viewers, are in North Carolina.
That's right.
So you
that's
gotta be
right.
sensitive to that.
Well, I'm sort of skewed toward the blue Carolina too, but my school days were at South Carolina.
Right. Before wrapping up down here, that's exciting. And so you still have family here in the area, Jeff?
My parents are here, and I'm raising my kids here, and it's a great place to live.
It is. It is. When did the love for music really come around?
I've always been into music. I didn't get it at home. I guess I picked it up off of being a kid and, you know, reading comic books in bed and hiding under the covers at night and listening to that AM radio, playing WOW Fort Wayne and all those faraway AM stations, even before FM, you know.
Right.
And just learned to love the music, and it opened itself up to me, and I was become sort of a repository of music knowledge.
Oh,
A
yeah.
lot of it's useless, but a lot of it's fun.
That's right. I think I saw you're otherwise known as the minister of music.
Yeah, I was ordained by a guy named Mixon Dixon, who's a local DJ around
Right.
here, and that was a little bit of imposed reverence that he implied on me because
Yeah.
of the fact that I was always pretty good at being able to answer his questions.
That's right. That's right. I bet that was, obviously your excitement for you having been in the business and helped so many area bands and otherwise expand their own presence through Sounds Familiar, the store you have for so long.
Yeah.
Share with viewers a little about, of course, that first intro for you and actually getting into a position where you were supplying or helping to provide an avenue for local artists to get out and present their wares.
Well, as you know, with developing artists, it's awfully hard for them to get their music heard. And it's even harder for them to be able to get it in a position where it's available to the general public to be able to be sold and bought.
Right.
And so I just felt it was a necessary thing for me to be able to give that opportunity to up-and-coming bands because the local chain stores were not going to be able to do that, and the big mass merchandisers were not going to be able to do that because it was just too much trouble to kind of babysit all these little small projects. And I wanted to see the bands prosper and to get out and get into the public and into the light of popularity. And, you know, a lot of people don't realize that Myrtle Beach has been the springboard for a lot of bands. I mean, Alabama and Hootie and the Blowfish, so to speak. And we had the local band, The Drag, that was right out of Myrtle Beach. And we've had some local notoriety come right from this town.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That must be difficult at times, though, Jeff, obviously having, whether it was through Sounds Familiar or any future venues you step into. I mean, it's kind of altruistic, obviously, stepping out to try to help the guys, but you have to run a business, you have to sell records and continue to pay the bills. What's that like, that ability? I mean, that you're really in a catch-22 there.
Well, you just have to want to do the part of being there for the up-and-coming talent, and that's not really part of the money function because that's just an opportunity.
Right.
And, you know, I've always felt like if I don't do it, no one else is going to do it. And it's just something I want to do. It's the person I want to be as far as the music community goes.
That's a great commitment. Do you think your children are seeing the same sense, Jeff, that you had growing up, getting that early introduction with the covers over, listening to music later in the evening after they're supposed to be sleeping? You may not know about it or want to know.
Well, my son has already told a lot of his friends and my parents even that when he grows up he wants to be a CD seller. So I don't know if there'll be CD sellers when he grows up or not, but we might have to redirect that somewhere else. But he likes music and is really entertained by it. And my daughter is also doing dance, and she's involved in music, and she's really excited by it too.
Yeah, and dance is so special with the music flowing through you. I mean, it really takes part of it. You used to see ballet dancers and see them choreographed and otherwise with the music really taking part of it. Very cathartic.
She loves it.
Yeah, that must be very exciting. That must be very exciting. Of course, you think so many aspects of music, Jeff, and the most important component there was always just being able to provide for others.
It helps. It helps. It's the part that makes you all warm and fuzzy inside. You know, it's when what was always real gratifying for me was when people would come into my store and say, you know, I've been looking for so and whatever they were asking for. I've been looking for that for 5 years, and I can turn around and go, oh, well, here it is.
Wow.
And they were always elated and gratified, and would go and tell 5 other people, hey, you know, if you want something, go see Jeff because he can probably find it for you. That's part of the minister of music, you know. I had at one point in time a period in my store where if you needed a doctor or a lawyer, you could come to my store and probably find one because they were in there when they had a bad day or when the doctors were done. At the end of the day, they would come to my store, and that's where they got fixed. So that was a real good thing.
Now, who were some of your favorite musicians growing up, Jeff?
Growing up, wow. I was never much of a Beatles person. Most of my contemporaries were, and I was more of a Rolling Stones person. And Dave Clark Five, I like them a lot.
Really?
And Herman's Hermits. I guess it was sort of the anti-Beatles track for me. And I just liked the different people because I think everybody, when I was coming up, either liked the Beatles or the Beach Boys, and I just chose a different path.
Right.
I think popular music stuck with me until about the time I started college, and I took that turn from the British invasion and the disco era to Southern music, and picked up on the Allman Brothers, and of course South Carolina had Marshall Tucker,
right.
and the Southern rock stuff just appealed to me because I was raised in the South, and a lot of the themes and a lot of the sentiments of the music was based in the South. And I don't know, Bruce Springsteen was a little bit far away from me, but I like him now.
Was Leonard Skinner around then?
Yeah, actually they were. They came along 74, 75 along in there. Matter of fact, they were discovered, or they were produced originally by a guy named Al Cooper, who was in the Super Session with Mike Bloomfield. It's a real famous San Francisco record, but Al Cooper toured them around the Southeast and took them door to door to record stores and said, hey, these guys are going to be big. And you know, at the time they were a really scruffy, rough-looking bunch of guys,
sure.
but
like
you know, they played here in 1976 and played Myrtle Beach for 2 days at a place called the old Grand Strand Music Fair. That was a venue that was run by Cecil Corbett back in those days, and they played Myrtle Beach for 2 days as a warm-up to their world tour with The Who. And it was a big deal because they had never played 2 days in a row anywhere, and they did it here. So
that's a great fact. You of course mentioned another name, Cecil Corbett, a name that was indicative of music for this area a long time, and obviously helped to bring the Rolling Stones to the area. Am I correct?
Yeah, he brought the Rolling Stones here in 1978. It was just a quirk more than anything else. The band was going to be in a layover situation for a few days, and they had an opportunity to be at the beach for a few days, and the band and the crew and the trucks and all the stuff was already here, and they said, well, why don't we go ahead and do the show? And they announced on the radio one morning they were putting Rolling Stones tickets on sale, and no one believed it.
Yeah, sure.
And they kept saying, no, we're not kidding. They're actually going to play here, and you need to come down to the convention center and buy tickets. And no one believed it.
No.
And so by the time the word got around, the tickets were already sold out, and I think 1,800 people got to see the show, and everybody else was mad.
Oh, yeah, I bet they were. Now, in 78, you were then in your early 20s, Jeff.
Right.
Were you already on the music scene back here?
Yeah, I was working at the record bar in Myrtle Square Mall at that point in time, and that was actually my third record store. I'd worked for the second record store in town, which was called the Music Box, and the Record Shack, which was owned by the former judge here in town, Olin Blanton. The municipal center over on 21st Avenue is named for Judge Blanton.
Was that David Blanton's dad? I mean, you know, was
Derek Blanton's
father.
Yeah,
really?
right.
Same name?
Yeah.
Wow.
And so he owned the local record store before he was a judge, and that was my after-school gig, and I learned to sell 45s, and back in the days of albums and 8-tracks and all that kind of stuff. So 78, that was a long way down the road in my musical career, but we had the main record store in town at the time, and the Rolling Stones actually came to us, and they were laid over for a few days, like I said, enjoying the beach and having a good time. And so we provided the band with a bunch of cassettes and records of stuff that they wanted because they were out on the road.
Oh, yeah.
And they in turn provided us with some very nice tickets.
My
so
gosh,
it was a real fun thing, and
that is
you know,
exciting.
it was a magic time. You know, I mean, most people, you tell them that they ever played here, unless it's the old locals, they don't understand. But I mean, it was pretty amazing. You know, another thing too, during the Steel Wheels tour, 1989, Rolling Stones, was about the time the Air Force Base here was closing up.
Right.
And the Rolling Stones actually spec'd out one of the hangars here at Myrtle Beach for a rehearsal space, but they needed a higher ceiling than what the aircraft hangar would provide to do their rehearsals in, so they never came here. But they really wanted to use this space because they could fly in and out of here undetected, and no one would have known they were going to be here.
That's exactly right. I saw them perform in the Steel Wheels tour in Madrid, actually, in a gigantic stadium there, and I remember that vividly. So I can't even imagine what it would be like for 1,800 folks in Myrtle Beach in 78, or in even smaller venues. I'm sure they've done House of Blues or otherwise, smaller venues. I'm sure they've played places.
Like a private party.
Like private parties. I'm sure somebody can pay for stuff like that, Jeff.
Actually, that show in '78 also had Peter Tosh on the bill.
Really?
And that's when the Rolling Stones had taken Peter Tosh into their fold and put them on their record company, and he did the duet with Mick Jagger on "You Gotta Walk and Don't Look Back."
Wow.
And so that was a pretty amazing thing. You know, Peter Tosh is not with us anymore, and you know, another legend gone.
Jeff, you know, such a big focus, and we'd love to. I mean, we could talk for hours just about so many of the instances with Sounds Familiar. But right now, y'all are rolling 2 years in. I mean, 2 years in with South by Southeast.
That's correct.
A big focus is surely what y'all do on a regular basis, as well as preparing for the Great Americana Sampler on November 13th. Share with the viewers how South by Southeast was set up, who's involved, and what y'all's primary mission is.
It's basically an outgrowth of a bunch of guys that sat down and were bemoaning the fact that there wasn't a lot of good music around, or a lot of music that we were interested in seeing. And we basically got tired of hearing each other fuss about it, and set a hat in the middle of the table and dared each other to put $100 in it, and we were going to book a band. And so we did that, and we brought in a gal from Nashville called Jill Block. She's a singer-songwriter, and a gal from Memphis named Lauren Ellis, who's a blues guitarist. And we had a little party down at the Aloha Motel in the rec room where the ping pong tables and the pool tables were set up. We pushed them aside and went in there and had a little rock and roll show along with a covered dish dinner, and had a big time. And one party led to another, and one led to another, and everyone had such a good time that we decided to formalize it and make it a club, and our mission was to use the money that we could raise to benefit music education in Horry County. And we've been able to do some good things with the Myrtle Beach Middle School Orchestra, and we've been able to help David Bankston at Coastal with his Guitars in the Classroom program, which is being run at Aner Middle School right now. And we're looking for more things to do, and we hope to be able to provide a scholarship for someone going into college this year, for someone who's inclined towards music or dance, or someone recommended by one of our board members or one of our members, you know, in the free range.
Right. How exciting. Of course, y'all are having relatively regular get-togethers.
Yes,
the events y'all have most often staged at New South Brewery.
Yes, New South Brewery has been one of our partners from the very beginning, and they have provided us a performance space on occasion. And basically what we do is every 6 weeks or so we have what we call Music Feast. And it's a covered dish supper. We usually provide the entree, which most of the time people like barbecue, so we do barbecue. And then we have a local person. We've had Janie Trudell, and we've had Tom Yoder, we've had David Bankston. We've had a number of the local artists come in and play a warm-up set, and then we bring in the national people. We've had the $2 Pistols, the Chatham County Line from North Carolina. We've had Jill Block's band, The Big Happy. We tried to have Lauren Ellis. She got washed out by the hurricane again. We've had Kevin Gordon from Nashville. We've had a number of really great singer-songwriters, Malcolm Holcomb from North Carolina, people that have given us a reputation of being able to bring in people that most people had not heard of, but just blown away by the fact that they were so talented and they just never had the opportunity to get heard.
Wow. How exciting, Jeff, to be a part of that. That must be thrilling. Real quick, if you had to run out to get to school or to get to work, what would be the best number someone could call to learn more about the big sampler coming up, as well as some of the other South by South activities?
340-2840 is my number, and feel free to call anytime and try to help you get geared toward a South by Southeast event, or give you some more information about what we're doing and where we're doing it.
843-340-2840.
That's correct.
Our viewers in the PD in southeastern North Carolina would be interested in coming out for some of the events. Are these on weekends or weekdays?
Most always on Saturdays. We try to do them on Saturdays, and our events start early, generally at 6 o'clock, and they end early. We've tried to address all the concerns and all the commitments that everyone in our group has. We have lots of professional people and doctors and lawyers and, you know, people that have work and obligations and children, and so we try to get them on early and get them done early.
Now, Jeff, did you ever aspire to be are you a musician, and did you ever aspire to play or sing or otherwise? You got a great voice.
I did radio for a while.
Is that right?
And, yeah. And I don't think I can sing. My wife says I can't sing, but I tried to play a banjo for a while, but the only thing I ever achieved was making a lot of noise, so I gave that up. And when I was a kid, probably 9 or 10, my parents tried to get me to play the violin, but my hands were too big, so they moved me up to viola. And so after practicing the viola in my parents' house for about a month or 6 weeks, they had enough.
They were happy to get rid of that.
They were glad to not hear the viola anymore.
How about when do your kids? I guess you said your son interested in CD selling, and your daughter Shirley dancing. Is your bride a musician?
No, she plays me.
Yeah, she married a music lover. That's right, and she plays me.
And she's been so instrumental in helping us get this event off the ground, and has been really helping us a lot with all she knows, and just been a real great support for me. And I guess we'll have to teach her how to play a music instrument, or she's been trying to encourage me to go out and learn how to dance. So.
Ooh, yeah, that's right. If you dance, I'll learn how to play the banjo. Yeah, the Great Americana Sampler Show.
Right.
Obviously, y'all came up with that name. You know, part of the South by Southeast focus is American music.
Right.
Is that right?
Yeah, Americana is sort of an umbrella for a lot of different kinds of music. For the most part, it's sort of stuff that's kind of under the radar. It's music that's not quite country, but also not quite rock, and not quite folk, but not quite bluegrass. And it includes a lot of elements of gospel and soul and R&B and swamp and just everything that's innately American. And it's all kind of a mishmash thrown together. And if you'll come to the show, you'll see the kind of stuff that we're doing, and it's really skewed more towards adults than teens or young adults. But you know, it's a really great kind of music. A lot of it is an outgrowth of the Oh Brother movie and the music that was spawned by Oh Brother. You know, one of the highlights of that show the movie is that Ralph Stanley comes back in. He's now Dr. Ralph Stanley. He had a doctorate bestowed upon him, but Ralph Stanley is now back in the limelight again and real popular again. He was released 50 years ago by Columbia Records because he was too country. Wow. And now he's 50 years ago, and he's now been re-signed by the same record company that once threw him out.
Yeah.
So
they're probably owned by someone else now than they were back then. Yeah, Sony, that's right. That doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
That doesn't hurt. Jeff, you know, that aspect, of course, of so many things going on and so many activities, South by Southeast is really hopping right now.
Yeah, we're busy. We're busy. We're right now in the planning stages of doing our 2005 calendar. I just got back from Nashville last week. The Americana Music Conference was there. Matter of fact, coming up this month on the Great American Country Channel, GAC, the Americana Awards show will be running, I think, 20 times in the coming month. But we went up there for the purpose of recruiting some new talent, and we found some wonderful people that you've never heard of that play some of the sweetest music you've ever heard. And they're, you know, once again, making music in Nashville, getting heard, and getting their songs recorded by other people. We met a guy named Troy Johnson, who's a very unassuming young man, probably 25 or 30 years old. He looks like he needs a skateboard and a book bag, but he's got a song that's getting ready to be recorded by Faith Hill, and he'll probably make a lot of money off of that, you know, because of that one song being recorded by that one gal. So.
And that's what we talk about. When we think about some mainstream big names that play Americana music, you use the word swamp, and so someone think, oh, I'm not going to swamp music. But, I mean, there are aspects of the Americana when if someone was thinking about traveling down from Laurinburg to come see a show, who is a big mainstream name that may have some familiarity, if there are any, or maybe there are none?
Everybody says Creedence Clearwater plays swamp music.
Okay,
you know,
yeah, that's right. That doesn't turn people off.
Mississippi Bayou. I mean, it's
correct. Forgive me.
It's kind of twisted Southern blues rock. I mean, it's just it's such an amalgamation of different things. Americana has become sort of a branding name to allow all these artists to have a place to go. I mean, one of the artists that we tried to recruit for this show was a guy named Rodney Crowell. Rodney Crowell was married to Roseanne Cash, Johnny Cash's daughter, and he has the distinction of being the only person to ever write, produce, and record 5 consecutive #1 singles. And that wasn't done by the Beatles, wasn't done by Elvis, wasn't done by anybody. He was just able to do that because of his power of his pen. So, I mean, there's lots of people out there, but they just have, one reason or another, not been able to penetrate the charts a lot of the time. Like Jim Lauderdale.
Like Jim Lauderdale. Again, those four big names to encourage folks to come down. It's Coastal Federal Field, 3 p.m. on Saturday, November 13th.
Jim Lauderdale, Paul Thorne, Kevin Welch, and Kieran Kane.
Okay, that's what folks need to travel for.
It'll be a great show.
That's great. Jeff, thanks so much for being with us this morning. Absolutely. Stay tuned to more Carolina People with Jeff Roberts coming up next. The phone number's simple. You got time to write it down. 843-340-2840. Write it down. 843-340-2840. Four big acts all together, 6 hours on Saturday, November 13th. 340-2840. Take the time to think about it. South by Southeast is for real. Folks are working hard to get together to promote Americana. A lot of folks are going to be out there at Coastal Federal Field. Real easy to find, 21st Avenue North in Myrtle Beach. It's on a Saturday. You can travel down, leave Laurinburg at noon, cruise on down. If you want to go hang out at Broadway at the beach for a little while, you can, and then come on over to Coastal Federal Field for 6 hours. It's $25 if you buy in advance, $30 at the door, or very close by. I think for 6 hours, that's $5 an hour to be able to experience some amazing acts, four incredible performers. Get down there, give them a call, 843-340-2840.